Here.
Brecht. Blythe. Carter. Claiborne.
Here.
DeBoer. Olivia. Here. Noel. Here. Shaw. Here. Larson. Here. Lent. Mahoney.
Here.
Rios.
McCready,
Here.
Patel,
Here.
Paulson,
Here.
Ruley, Schnepp,
Here.
Se-
Here. Stay away. Simmons.
Skaggs,
Here. Stout. Here.
Strickland,
Present. Wigmeister.
Present.
Weathers,
Here.
Zuber.
Here.
All right. Go ahead and go do the Pledge of Allegiance. To students, please approach the podium if you would like to speak. You'll have 10 minutes. Please say your name and major.
Is there anyone here for open forum? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to adopting the agenda for tonight. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to place 2021-3-003F funding Iowa State Equestrian Hunt Team to the top of general orders.
There's been a motion, no second. Is there any discussion? No objections? It's been moved. Any other additions to tonight's agenda? Senator Wigmeister.
I move to add 2021-3-005F Election Commission line item transfer to the bottom of internal matters, general orders.
Right, moving, there's been a motion to move the line item transfer to, can you repeat that? Sorry, missed that.
2021-3-005F Election Commission line item transfer to the bottom of internal matters.
Right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Any objections? See no objections. Moving that to the bottom of general orders. All right, any other additions to tonight's agenda?
Move to adopt tonight's agenda.
There's been a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, seeing no objection, we've adopted tonight's agenda. Approval of minutes. Going on to the approval of minutes from last night, Speaker Weathers, last week, excuse me.
I don't believe our clerk was able to as he was absent and there was no live stream, so I moved to table the approval of minutes until next week.
There's been a motion to approve or move table the minutes to next week, and there's been a second. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Seeing none, we're going to table that to next week. Moving on to committee reports. Next, we'll start with rules with Speaker Weathers.
Rules met yesterday, went for the full hour, and we talked about 2021-3-0. It's the only bylaw bill up for general orders tonight. It's 01Y, changing election commission's violation process. A good chunk of the night was spent on debate on that. I know it might be confusing for a lot of people in the room, so when the bill does come up, I just know a few people have had questions about it. Feel free to ask questions, clarify things, because there's a lot in there, and I know it can be less than intuitive when it comes to bylaw bills like this. But the bill was sent no bias with a vote of 4-0. The committee had some reservations about its impact, but the language is all good. It's all squared away. It should function in our bylaws. So beyond that, we continued with our contract report. That will be done by next week, I swear. We're just waiting on a few things, getting some numbers from some of our contract parties. Other than that, we ran out of time because it was a packed meeting.
Moving on to Finance Committee with Finance Director Zastro.
Howdy, y'all. So our clerk was out sick yesterday, so we do not have any minutes for you yet. I'll make sure to get those to you by next week. It just takes a little bit longer to transcribe them instead of taking them in person, so she wasn't able to wrap those up yet. So as for yesterday, we saw 3 different matters. First was the Iranian Students and Scholars Association that was sent favorably with some amendments. Then we saw a line item transfer request from Election Commission that was dealing with the ASL interpreters previously funded through Senate, so we thought it fitting to send it to Senate. We sent it to Senate favorably. And then the last one was funding an equestrian club hunt team. That was, the account on that was changed to events, and it was sent favorably with amendments. Annuals is underway starting next week. So if you are in any clubs, make sure the treasurer knows that that's happening. That email, the first one got sent out today. The next one will be sent out in the next couple days. So yeah, if you have any questions about that process or anything else that's going on in finance, just let me know.
Moving on to PR committee with Director Garmin.
Thanks everyone that helped at Club Fest today. I'm not sure the total amount of signatures that we collected, but I think we collected quite a few. And then if some of you did see the tablecloth was looking a little rough, we do have a new one coming. It's just been a process. So hopefully by next go around there will be a new tablecloth. And then so last night PR committee met for the first time for the semester. And a lot of the conversation was election outreach. So we're working with the Election Commission, and their PR committee is handling non-academic clubs and are reaching out to them, and then we're handling the academic clubs. So we're reaching out to them and trying to set up times that we can go and give a presentation on how to run. And then we also are planning the giveaway baskets that we did last year, and then we have 2 candidate events. What the committee kind of decided was 2 different I think one morning and afternoon one, another night one would just be like people can come meet the candidates and we just have free food for them. But thanks.
Diversity and Inclusion Committee with Director Booman.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you again. It's been quite a busy week for me. So a few things. We started our first committee meeting last night, so that was exciting. Unfortunately, we did do Zoom because COVID is real. I know a couple of our members were sick. Also, it was quite cold. So unfortunately, we weren't in person, but it was still a great meeting. We went through updates for the semester, kind of what the direction we're looking in. So yeah, I met with Laura Bessler today and Lori Mickle of CELT, and so I'm collaborating with them on an awesome project about neurodiverse students and increasing resources for neurodiverse students and for students who affiliate with student accessibility services. So I'm extremely excited about this one. We've got plenty of other projects going on. I know Kit Claiborne, he's working on D&I training for athletes and gender-neutral bathrooms. I had a meeting with Jacob and Julia about the Senate reform, and that is coming along nicely, so I'm very excited for that. Also, fun fact, Jacob Ludwig, Chief of Staff, has never had ramen before. So me and Miss Meredith May have a special surprise downstairs, sitting on top of the microwave. We're gonna make you some ramen after this. And he's gonna give us a little first try video, and we're gonna let everybody see it, because I think it's unethical that he hasn't had ramen. But besides the point, otherwise I've been working a lot with Bryce and the PR team. The week of February 14th through the 18th, we're looking to collaborate with the MSA. We may be doing a social media takeover for the DEI committee to talk with marginalized communities about election outreach. Chase has agreed to train me for the election presentation, so I will be official now. But yeah, so a lot of great things going on, so stay tuned for next week.
Student Initiatives Committee with Vice Speaker Advait.
All right, hello everyone. SI had its regular meeting this Monday. Our regular meeting times are now Mondays at 5 p.m. for now in the West Newton office space. We had a very productive meeting, I want to say. We shored up what we want to do as a committee on 3 major projects. What that's going to look like is just about the 23rd of February. Around that timeline, we're looking at putting on a trivia night. The reason we think this is going to be great is a lot of trivia nights are at bars, and if you're under 21 or if you just don't want to be around alcohol, your options are severely limited in that regard. So we're working on that. In terms of, we're currently working on getting the word out. looking at what the room assignment's going to look like, snacks, what the situation on that looks like. Meredith Mays, our at-large, is the contact point on that. So if you have any questions, reach out to her. Also, speaking of PR, you all know the big little sign we have, the MU has by Lincoln Way. While cleaning out the office, a bunch of us found an old contract that says we paid for like half of it, and in return we get like half of the airtime on that sign. So hey, that's a great way to get the word out. I believe that contract is still active, so keep that in mind. The safety walk, the committee's really enthused to do that again. We're looking at sort of the mid of April. It's probably going to look similar to what it's been in the past. The contact points are Senator or Jennifer Seth right there, and then Savannah Kalous, one of our at-larges. Just about April end, I think we're going to be aiming to do woofs and wellness again, looking at the really good response we had last semester. And then I know Senator Mahoney has his mental health project. He's sort of working on it by himself, but I think that's going off pretty well as well, the mental health training project with ICPD. In closing, this is, in all likelihood, my last update as SI chair. I just want to say this has been one of the most fulfilling and rewarding positions I've had. It's been really great to see what we can do when we all get together. And yeah, when I leave this organization, it's certainly going to be one of those things I take with me when I go. So thank you so much, everyone. For the last time, I yield.
Civic Engagement Committee with Senator Paulson.
Hi, everyone. It's looking like our committee will be meeting next Monday, and then also tomorrow we'll be having, along with like the CAT Center, we're doing a panel, and it'll be about campaigning, election rules and procedure, and to hear from a panel of women currently serving. So, yeah.
All right, moving on from comments from the Student Government Advisor with Sophia.
Okay, hello everyone. Happy second week of classes. Sorry I wasn't able to be here last week. Just a few quick updates. One is the Iowa Student Leadership Experience, also known as ILE, is coming up on February 12th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. So registration is open for that, so if you are interested. There's also applications for alternative spring break trips. So if you want to find something to do over spring break, that's always a fun opportunity. And then also, so this Saturday is the Social Justice Summit from 11 to 4:30. So that's right here in the MU. If you're interested, there's a lot more information on the Student Engagement website. Also, if you are in charge of a committee, I will be sending an email asking for the times, dates, and locations of those committees, and then expect an email from me, kind of like last semester. I'm going to be opening up slots on my calendar to meet with all of you and just to see how you've progressed on your goals, what you want to do for the rest of the term, because we do have time, but also the last meeting is probably April 6th. So if you want to get some stuff done, I'm more than happy to help, and I hope you all had a good start to your, I almost said break, wow, semester.
Speaker Weathers.
I move to add Senators Lunt, Breck, DeVore, and Sayaway to the roll.
Is there any objection? Right, they've been added to the roll. Moving on to comments from the Judicial branch with Chief of Justice.
All right, is this thing on? All right, awesome. How's it going, everyone? I wasn't here last week, so excited to start the new semester. I don't really have too much substantive to say. The court's meeting, our first meeting will be next week, and there's not much to look out for there right now. But so I guess I'll turn the rest of my time over to Chase.
Hello, everyone. This past week, we've been working on informational sessions for senatorial candidates. There are 3 more sessions left for candidates to come through. Thursday, January 27th at 5 p.m., Memorial Union Room 3560. Wednesday, February 2nd at 5 p.m., again, the MU in Room 3512. Friday, February 4th at 5 p.m. in the Memorial Union, Room 3512. If you know of anybody interested in running for office, please have them attend one of those sessions. If they're for some reason unable to attend, please contact us and we can set something up. If you know anybody who wants to run, please give them a statement of intent that can be found in the senatorial packet on the website of the Election Commission. So if you know anybody, spread the word. And then, let's see, statement of intent is due February 8th at 5 p.m. And 2 weeks from now, or 2 weeks from yesterday, the vice presidential debate will be on Tuesday at, let's see here, make sure I give it right. Tuesday, February 8th at 7 p.m. in the Great Hall of the Memorial Union. It will also be live streamed. I encourage you all to attend. It's very important to support us. And on tonight, you'll be seeing a couple bills from on behalf of the Election Commission. One of them is due to the election violations process. We have sent out a statement to all of you explaining the reasonings behind why we are pushing for these changes. I encourage you all to read that. I've also placed diagrams laying out the process of the violations since it's somewhat complex. So if you have any questions on the bill, please feel free to call on me and I can answer your questions. But if anybody have any questions, just contact us at electioncommission@iastate.edu. Thank you.
All right, moving on to comments from the executive branch with President Campbell.
On behalf of the entire executive branch, good evening and hello. I will be the first to admit that there is a draft. It's very cold coming from the door. It's a little bit chilly over here, but welcome. I hope that you've had a good start to your week. A couple meetings that I was going to touch on, a couple meetings that we've had this past week. An announcement about the Student Counseling Services Director that they've finally announced, and then who also began today, Wednesday, January 26th. President's Council updates, the 2022 State of the Community, and then once again, I'll touch on the 2 focus groups. So number one, to begin, thanks for everyone's efforts with Club Fest today. There was a lot of people there, and it was great. I think a chance for people to go in and mingle with different clubs and organizations. So thank you for being there if you were, and great to check out. We had a meeting earlier this week with President Winterstein, and that was it was a good conversation to catch up after the break. They're working on some different responses with the Omicron variant and a couple different things there. We had a meeting with Dean of Evans, or Dean of Students, Sharon Evans. Vice President Decker and I did. And then recently, we just got off the call with Sophia McGill earlier today. Director of Governmental Affairs, Will Fight, Megan and I did. Big 12 on the Hill this year, that typically is out in D.C. From a Big 12 perspective, has been announced virtual for April 4th, 5th, and 6th. There'll be a introduction welcome day on the 4th, Big 12 day on the 5th, and then State Day on the 6th. So we're still working through some details there, but Sophia McGill has been wonderful. The Special Student Fee Committee met earlier this week, and that was something, there was a couple of the last presentations that are filtering in for each of the fees, and then we'll take votes at the next meeting, which is February 8th. So we've got quite a few analyses to make between now and then, just to do some background work. In terms of the Student Counseling Center, Erin Baldwin has officially announced Dr. Kristen Sievert. She had worked previously in the office and was serving as the interim director for a period of time. She'll now be officially operating in that capacity, and we're really excited to have her there. So if you get the chance, tell her congratulations. President's Council met this morning in the Memorial Union. In the executive's update, Campbell Scoop, I'll send out the slides for you to take a look at. There's some numbers about COVID on campus and in Story County and how we compare with Iowa and the CDC, things like that. Bryce Garmin, our Director of Marketing, had passed along this 2022 State of the Community address today. If you get the chance to check it out, there was some pretty interesting points made from different leaders of the community. That was at the Ames School District boardroom. And then the final 2 points I'll make, the focus groups about American Sign Language and the Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching from the U.S. Diversity and International Perspectives courses and inclusive classrooms are moving forward. We have a date secured, we think, for the inclusive classroom one. So if you would like to be part of that, please reach out. I just got your email, Jennifer, so thank you. But that is all I have tonight. Maybe my last point would be, if you get the chance, today I got the opportunity to take over Iowa State Admissions Instagram account on the stories. So if you see anything cheesy, I'm sorry, but that was me today. So I'm going to maybe take a couple photos tonight, and we'll put our meeting on the Instagram page. So any questions from anyone at this point? All right, thank you.
All right, with that, we'll go ahead and move on to external matters, general orders, starting with 2021-3-002F, funding funding Iowa State equestrian hunt team. We switched those around with Senator Wegmeister.
Okay, as the representative makes their way up to the podium, we saw this in Finance Committee. And as you see the amendment reflect on the screen, it's an event hosted in Iowa Falls, and I will let the representative do the rest of the explaining.
Hi, my name is Megan Gies. I'm the president and coordinator of this event that we're asking funding for. We are wanting to host another competition. We hosted a competition in November, and moving into spring semester, we found that, well, we had doubled in membership and we were flourishing as a team. Other teams that we compete against were not as fortunate. So we are really the only team capable of hosting a competition this semester. Hosting a competition would mean allowing our riders to gain enough points to move on to postseason competition and continue on. Without this competition, our season is basically done at this point without any further opportunities to compete for our riders. Anyone have any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Senator Mahoney?
Roughly how many students are part of your organization that would be taking part in this competition?
We have about 40 students in membership and about 20 would be competing. And we compete against about 12 schools around the Midwest.
Senator Seth?
So this event that you're wanting to do you have any ideas to when it would be and like where exactly on campus it would be located? I'm not very familiar with equestrian riding, so I don't really know.
We were planning on March 12th to 13th currently, and it will not be on campus. The facilities on campus are not sufficient for this type of event, so we rent the Ellsworth Equestrian Center in Iowa Falls.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. Senator Wegmeister?
I'll move to adopt the Finance Committee amendments.
There's been a motion to adopt the Finance Committee amendments. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll go ahead and move on to discussion for the Finance Committee amendments.
Second.
Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Go ahead and go into voting period on those amendments. Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to adding those amendments unanimously? Right, the amendment's been added back on the main motion. Senator Ulrich?
What would your postseason look like for your riders?
Our riders, you need a certain amount of points to qualify for our regional competition, which is in Notre Dame in Indiana. So this competition would allow our riders to get enough points for that. And then potentially from there, we're sitting in second place as a team right now, and that would move us on to zones in Texas, which is something we've never done before as a team either. And then after zones, it'd be nationals in Pennsylvania in early May.
Senator Weathers, or Speaker Weathers?
Hi, just out of curiosity, do you generate any sort of revenue from performing or putting on this event? Do you charge any sort of fees for the other schools or anything like that?
We usually break even. It's about a $10,000 event in total.
Okay. But you do take in some sort of...
No.
Okay.
There's several other expenses that we do. This would just be a small fraction of what we take to put on this event.
Sure, I'm not saying profit, but you do charge some sort of fee, or how do you?
There is registration.
Registration, okay.
Fee for all members, including our Iowa State team. It's $45, I believe, to compete in a class. And then some of that also goes to the national treasury for our governing organization.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Do you withdraw? Sure. Senator Wegmeister?
I'm working on updating the totals. The totals don't add up at the bottom.
Is that from the amendments that were just added?
I don't believe the amendments were, any of the amendments had to do with the actual like numbers. They were just labeling. So I was still tallying them while we were in discussion there. So I'll yield.
Is there any more discussion? Oh, Senator Finaldi, sorry, your water bottle is heavy.
Will you be getting funding if you make it past this event? Like, or will you be needing more funding to pay for like nationals or?
We have that in our budget currently. We just had not planned on hosting an additional competition this year.
Senator McCready?
Okay, so you say that you charge registration fee. Do you also charge stall fees to the team?
No, none of that comes from the stall fee on there. We pay for the horses that come and participate in the competition. So we rent the stalls for the horses. Does that make sense?
Do other teams rent their stalls too, or
No,
do you
it's
just
all,
rent? You just rent them all?
Yep, we bring all of the horses for the competition.
Vice Speaker Advait?
Senator Wagmeister, I ran a little math. Does that look good to you? Is that resolving?
Yeah, that's exactly what I got.
Okay, sweet. I will move the amendments on screen then.
There's been a motion and a second to move the amendments on screen. We'll go ahead and go into discussion period. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? We'll be voting on the amendments. Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to adding the amendments unanimously? All right, seeing none, they've been added. Back on the main motion once again. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Any closing comments from Senator Wagmeister? No closing comments. We'll go ahead and go into a voting period. This is going to be a roll call vote since this is a finance bill. Please say yes, no, or abstain once I say your name. Advait. Yes. Atagarla. Ulrich. Yes. Brecht. Yes. Claiborne. Yes. DeVore. Yes. Filippi. Yes. Finaldi. Yes. Goff. Yes. Larson. Yes. Lent. Yes. Mahoney.
Yes.
McCready.
Yes.
Patel. Yes. Paulson.
Yes.
Bruley. Schnipp.
Yes.
Seth.
Yes.
Sayaway.
Yes.
Skaggs.
Yes.
Stout. Strickland.
Yes.
Thornton.
Yes.
Wagmeister.
Yes.
Weathers.
Yes.
Zuber.
Yes.
Right. Of a vote of 25 to 0 to 0, the bill passes. Thank you. Right, moving on to 2021-3-002F, funding Iranian Students and Scholars Association with Senator Claiborne.
If the member of the Iranian Students Scholars Association wants to come up, this is just a bill funding for their celebration, and I will talk about the amendments later.
All right, hello everyone. Actually, I'm pretty much new to this. I've been here for 7 months, so I'm not sure what should I do here. We are having a celebration, which is the start of our year in Iranian calendar. This starts with the spring, and since it's the spring and trees grow leaves again, it's just a happy time for us. So, is there any question about Nowruz?
Any questions for the speaker? Senator Thornton.
Is this an event where you're hoping to recruit more members or just to provide like a party event for people?
It's a more party event, it's a celebration.
Okay, I yield.
Senator Finaldi.
Do you know where the event will be?
We are going to rent a church for that, for this venue, because as we talked about it yesterday, university doesn't have any place for us that can seat 400 people. And there are at least 400 people, Iranian students in this university, and they have spouses, and there are also people from here, locals, that join our parties.
What will be happening at the event, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, there will be music, there will be dance, and there will be reading poems and food. And I guess that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Speaker Weathers.
I doubt that there's anything like this, but a question for anyone on Finance Committee. Is there any sort of requirement that the event specifically be for students? Does it have to exclude members from the community or anything like that?
No, that's not a requirement.
Okay, I didn't think so. I yield.
Senator Seth.
Hi, thanks for being here. I had, I guess, 2 questions. My first question was, is this celebration open to, like anyone, or is it mostly just for members of your organization?
It's for anyone.
Okay. So like anybody could show up and take part in the celebration. That's really cool.
Actually, we are going to sell tickets for that.
Okay.
And it will be posted on university website. So you can buy the tickets and join.
Yeah, so that leads really well into my second question, which was, what are your what are ways that you're going to be promoting this event and kind of spreading the word about the event and kind of, making people aware that it's happening?
There's a website in universities. There's a university website that people can sell tickets on. And of course, we will ask other people to join via social media.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Madam President,
Senator Debate.
before we proceed, I'd like to move the finance amendments on screen.
Go ahead. Is there a second? Any objection? We'll go ahead and go into discussion period. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Go into a voting period. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to adding the Finance Committee amendments? All right, seeing none, they've been added on the main motion. Senator Larson.
It says you'll have funding for food. What kind of food do you guys usually have during this event? Just because I don't really know much about it. Like, is there like usual dishes that are served during these type of events?
Yes, there are. And we are going to order them from a restaurant from Chicago. And they will bring it here. They have done it before the last 2 years that we had the celebration here, because 1 year was canceled for the COVID. And the restaurant bring it here, and it's still fresh and warm, so we serve it. And it has been done before.
Could you list some of the foods? If you don't know, it's okay. I just
I can't list it, but you don't know the food.
Okay.
Because it's not English.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Speaker Weathers. Oh, you're not. Senator Ulrich.
And then you may be fundraising, it says in here. What do you plan to do with any funds you do raise?
Actually, our request for disposable dishes was rejected, and we raised some money for that reason too.
Gotcha. But in the bill it says where hundreds of people can come together to fundraise for your organization, and I didn't know what you were going to do with those funds you did raise at the event, or if you
Actually,
were.
the event wouldn't raise that much money. Actually, the tickets are just about half of the price for students, so we are just using the university money to cover that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Senator Lent.
Do we need to amend the cost total to read accurate?
It should be accurate on there. Are you seeing something? I guess what is incorrect that you see?
Like I don't know, maybe I'm like under quantity and cost under total. Do we usually have something there? And we don't?
No, we don't normally have something under there.
I'm making it up, sorry.
That's just the cost per quantity.
My bad. I yield.
Speaker Weathers.
Hi again. I may have missed it during your opening remarks, but do you have any sort of idea of past attendance from students, how much engagement you've gotten from the community?
About 300.
300 a row. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to voting now? Any closing comments from Senator Claiborne? No closing comments will go into a roll call vote since this is a finance bill. Please vote yes, no, or abstain once I say your name. Edvate. Yes. Atagarla. Yes. Ulrich. Yes. Brecht. Yes. Claiborne. Yes. DeVore. Yes. Filippi. Yes. Finaldi. Yes. Goff. Yes. Larson. Yes. Lent. Yes. Mahoney. Yes. McCready. Yes. Patel. Yes. Paulson. Yes. Schnepp. Yes. Seth. Yes. Sayaway. Yes. Skaggs. Stout. Yes. Strickland. Excuse me. Thornton. Yes. Wegmeister. Yes. Weathers. Yes. Zuber. Yes. A vote of 25 to 0, the bill passes. All right, moving on to 2021-3-008 SC, seating at larges to Sustainability Committee with Senator Stout. Down though, right? Scroll down. That up top, there's not a bill next to it, so did we move it down? Oh, excuse me, we'll start with internal matter special orders. I did that wrong. 2021-3-009 SC, seeing voting members of the Election Commission with Speaker Weathers.
Okay, my apologies for that. Yeah, this is a bill that similar bill to that which you saw last week. Just I believe elevating members, their new members. There's probably a better opportunity for Chase, so I'm going to yield to Chase.
Hi, everyone. Caitlin and Varsha here. Election Commissioner Opie interviewed them, and I did as well. We believe they're great candidates to be on the Election Commission, and they're also younger grade-wise, so they could stay on the commission for multiple years, as most of the exec team is going to be leaving here.
If you would like to just give us a little bit about your qualifications for the Election Commission, you can just go each say a little bit about yourself, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Hi, I'm Caitlin Proctor. I am a freshman majoring in business management. I was super involved in student council in high school, and I held several different officer positions as well as student body president. So being involved in student government in college was something that I definitely was looking forward to doing, and I'm excited to be able to be involved with Election Commission.
Hello, I'm Varsha Pesaru. I'm currently a freshman. I'm majoring in computer engineering. And yeah, I've also had a lot of, I've also worked at the student government in my high school, and I'm currently the president of Large here as well. And I've been wanting to go bigger, so this is why I've been here.
All right, are there any questions for either of the candidates? Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection? Voting now. Any closing comments? All right, no closing comments. We'll go ahead and go into a voting period on the nominees. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to confirming the nominees to the Election Commission unanimously? All right, seeing none, been confirmed. Congratulations. 2021-3-007 SO, updating Diversity and Inclusion Committee seat assignments to reflect facts on the ground and better represent member participation in the functioning of the committee with Senator Atagarla.
So this is a bill to remove some of the inactive members from the DEI committee. We have regularly given them updates about meeting times, and they have proven to not show up to any meetings, and they haven't engaged in any of the projects. So we're just calling out to remove them. I'll take any questions if you have them.
I can speak a little bit about this too. Oh my God, that's right.
We'll have to have someone extend speaking privileges to you, but you're all good.
I can extend a speaking privilege to Director Bowman. If
I didn't know that. I'm so sorry, guys. So a little bit about this. So we do have a few members. They have not been in contact with us. I have called them. I have emailed them. We have texted them multiple times. We really haven't heard any contact since like the end of October last year. So that is why this is present. So we have tried all forms of communication, but we have been radio silent. So a little elaboration on that. I yield. Sorry.
Speaker Weathers.
Probably a question for Director Bootman, but anyone on D&I as well, since I know that she's new. I assume, say, if there's been radio silence, that you haven't got anything back if you've reached out to extend an invitation tonight.
Correct.
Okay.
Multiple times.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've given them a fair opportunity, and if you've invited them to come tonight and speak and defend themselves, but they haven't answered, I don't know what else there is to do but remove them from the committee.
Question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to voting now? Any closing comments from Senator Atagarla? All right, no closing comments. We'll go ahead and go into voting period for that. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to passing the bill unanimously? Great. It's been passed. Moving on to 2021-3-008 SC, seating at largest to Sustainability Committee with Senator Stout.
Okay, so it looks like they're moving their way up there. But first, I would like to make an amendment to add, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name.
You can just say my.
My?
Yeah.
Okay. Advait knows how to spell it. Just to add her to the bill. But yeah.
Been a motion and a second to add the name to, is it a blank? All right. Amendment's been reflected on the screen. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? A question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? All right, unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to adding the amendment unanimously? All right, seeing none, it's been added back on the main bill. Go ahead. We can go ahead and have each of you give a little bit about your qualifications, if that's all right.
Hi, my name is Alex Branham, and I'm an environmental science major and minoring in sustainability. I wanted to be a part of the sustainability committee because one of my goals in life is to live more sustainable and help the community around me be more sustainable. I always had a passion for creating a better environment and by taking action and education. Some different projects I'm excited about is composting, recycling, and the community gardening, and the energy usage on campus. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mai. I'm a freshman majoring in environmental science, and yes, I've always wanted to do something regarding, just be part of sustainability, and I thought I could go bigger and, join the committee, and I have a few ideas in mind, and I thought that I could, bring them forward by joining the committee and, share them and, share some ideas and get to know each other and do something for the university and the environment around us. And yeah, that's it.
Hi, my name is Olivia Miller. I am a freshman in environmental science, and I am also minoring in animal ecology and Spanish. I was the president of the environmental club when I was a senior in high school, and I am interested in helping environmental issues be more important to the culture and to the administration at Iowa State, and I'm looking forward to making Iowa State more environmentally friendly.
Senator Seth? Oh, sorry, Senator Claiborne.
I move to remove the first ordered clause.
There's been a motion to remove the first ordered clause. Is there a second? Second. We'll go ahead into discussion period. Motion has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Go into a voting period. Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection for removing the first ordered clause? Seeing none. It's been removed. Back on the main motion. Senator Seth.
Hi, thank you all for being here. Hi, Olivia. Hi, Mai. They're my students. This is very exciting to see them up there. I just kind of wanted to ask each of you if there are any specific projects in mind. Just kind of expound on what you talked about in terms of things that you want to work on or things that you're particularly interested in. If you've maybe given any thought as to like, how do I go about this project? So yeah, and this is for all of you to answer.
So one project or one idea that I had in mind is using reusable bags on campus, because I've seen like usage of plastic bags, maybe in West Side markets or the library. So, in places like that where we could use reusable bags and maybe offer a discount for the ones who get their own bags. And so in that way, we could promote the usage of reusable bags. So I think that could be a more, just an environmental friendly way and a sustainable environment. So yes, that was one of the projects that we could love to work on.
So there's some things that are already ongoing that I'm excited to contribute to. I know that I'm on the subcommittee for energy, and they're doing the kilowatt challenge. So just kind of keeping track of the energy usage in different buildings on campus. And I'm also excited, I know at the University Village, there's going to be a community garden starting up. So I'm very excited about that.
I have heard about a movement to make an environmental class a necessary component to most majors, and I am interested in pursuing that. And additionally, I am on the ecology committee, subcommittee, and I think as part of that, we could add pollination stations to campus to increase pollinator access to the green space that we have.
These all sound like really interesting projects. As the SUV senator, I'm involved in the community garden project, so I'm very excited about that as well. I won't get to take part of it because I won't be there anymore as of May, but I'm very excited to see it go through as well. But all of these sound like great projects. You all seem very qualified, so appreciate you being here, and I think you're a good fit for the committee.
Speaker Weathers.
I just wanted to make sure Senator Stout wasn't getting thrown under the bus there. That last amendment was the result of me having to reformat the bill because it's all screwed up. So they wrote an excellent bill, not their fault. A question for the nominees, though. How likely do you think it is, and you can say I don't know if you don't know, how likely do you think it is that you're going to stick around past the end of the semester? Because we are nearing the end of the term, and it would be nice to develop some sort of institutional knowledge and make sure that we're having some sort of longevity in the committee, I guess.
I was planning to stay multiple years, or as long as I am at Iowa State, and am continually welcomed onto the committee to continue to stay and work up the knowledge and experience for everyone.
It's the same for me, like what she said, it's exactly the same.
I do graduate in fall semester, but I will continue to keep in touch with the Iowa State community.
Okay, I appreciate all of your answers. I don't think that would have made or broke any of you, but I think it's something important to emphasize.
Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Go into closing comments with Senator Stout. No closing comments. Go ahead and go into a voting period. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to confirming the nominees for Sustainability Committee unanimously? Right, seeing no objections, you've all been confirmed. Congratulations. Moving on to 2021-3-006 SC, seating a new senator to the Diversity and Inclusion Committee with Senator Claiborne.
Senator Thornton is making their way up there, and yes. I'm excited.
Okay. Hi, you guys know me. But my name's Emmy for those watching at home. And I'm looking forward to being a member of DEI so that I can help contribute to conversations that will help improve campus. I have personal experience in disability and LGBT facets of student life here, and I hope to bring that to the table. I also have some training in accessible and inclusive design training, thanks to my architecture classes, and actual projects that I'd like to partner on or start would be expanding the gender-neutral bathrooms on campus. This has already been started, and I think that I can bring a lot to the project. And I'd also like to look at how accessibility letters can be better gained by students. Currently, the process for getting a letter is back and forth between students and their doctors or a specialty doctor, and I hope that this process can be improved.
Speaker Weathers.
I'm sorry, everyone. I swear I don't like the sound of my own voice. I think you'd be an excellent fit for the committee, obviously, Emmy. My only concern is that you are currently sitting on 2 other committees. Do you think you'd have any sort of scheduling conflicts where you would be drawing away from the other committees by taking this post?
Sure. I actually withdrew from SI on Monday night, so right now I'm only on rules.
All right, sounds good.
Sorry, Advait. I love you.
Senator Litt.
Could I ask why you withdrew from SI?
So that I could join DEI. Please don't kill this bill. Or I'd have to reapply for SI, so.
Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Any closing comments, Senator Claiborne? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and go into a vote. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to confirming the nominee for DE&I committee unanimously? Seeing no objection, you've been confirmed. Congrats, Emmy.
Well, thank you.
2021-3-010, electing a new chair to the Student Initiatives Committee and relinquishing the chairship as held under the auspices of bylaws 5.2.1 and 5.3.4. Vice Speaker Advait. I think you're trying to give me a run for my money here. Ciao.
All right, this is the big bill y'all have been waiting for. As it says, this elects a new chair to SI. On a more serious note, I want to say this is one of the most impactful positions we have in student government, alongside a host of others, obviously. And I feel fairly confident saying whoever's running this committee will be reaching out on behalf of student government to at least hundreds of students over a regular chair term. So listen closely to the nominees talk, ask a lot of questions, and I will yield and open the floor for nominations.
Senator Seth.
I nominate Meredith Mays, who is right there.
Do you accept? I do. Other nominations? Senator Finaldi.
I'd like to nominate Senator Seth.
Do you accept?
Yes, I accept.
Senator Thornton.
I'd like to nominate Senator Mahoney.
Senator Mahoney, do you accept?
I do.
Any other nominations? Speaker Weathers.
I move to add Senator Rulli to the roll.
Any objection? Senator Rulli's been added to the roll. So if the 3 candidates would go up to the podium, you'll have 5 minutes to speak. Well, if the 3 candidates go to the podium, you'll each have 5 minutes to speak, and then we'll ask questions from the body.
Hello, everyone. My name is Meredith Mays. You might recognize me from SI Committee. I'm currently serving as an at-large. I am a communications major, and I'm minoring in leadership right now. since I've joined SI back in fall last year, I've been a very active member. I have attended every single meeting that we've had, and I have been involved in either planning or participating in every single event that we have hosted. Even though I'm just an at-large, I have taken on multiple leadership roles within the committee. And I do plan on continuing to be a part of student initiatives this semester and until I graduate and being a really dedicated member. My only responsibilities outside of SI are schoolwork, my job, and then soon campaigning to be a senator. So I do have a pretty free amount of time that I could dedicate to SI and planning events. And I would really be honored to have the position of chair for the SI committee. I've already dedicated a lot of time to it and continue to plan to continue to do so. I've had a pleasure of working on the majority of the SI events that we did last semester, and because of this experience, I think that I will be able to continue to plan events, especially like similar ones that we've had, like the access walk and the safety walk. I've had experience planning them before and can continue to do so on my own. While I've had other leadership positions in the past, I want to say the most similar one to being an SI chair would be when I ran a volunteer club for about 2 years when I was in high school. I had to collaborate with members and communicate with them. I had to properly plan events so that they'd work out smoothly. And I just had to generally be a good leader and representative for my school. Since I graduated high school, I've really missed just leading a group of passionate people and making positive changes with them. I haven't really had the opportunity to do so since I went to DMAC and because of the COVID year and everything. So I really miss that experience. If I were to become the chair of SI, I'd be able to kind of experience that feeling once again and just really find something that I'm truly passionate about. Since joining SI, I've really fallen in love with student government and SI in general. And I'm so grateful for all the individuals who have pushed me to do better and pushed me to try to become the chair of this committee. And if you guys were to consider me to be the chair, I would just be so honored and appreciative of it. Thank you.
Hi. Point of information. How much time is remaining for this portion?
The rest, the entire bill?
Or for the speaking, or
you
the
each have
introduction?
5 minutes.
Oh, we each have 5 minutes?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. So each have
Great.
5 minutes, the whole bill.
I thought we all collectively had 5 minutes, so that.
Nope, so you can go ahead and get started.
Okay, cool. First of all, these are frogs on my mask. I just want to clarify that so no one's confused. Secondly, I would like to just say that all of these nominees are incredibly qualified for this position. So as a Senate body, I don't think you guys can make a wrong choice. I think everybody here is very well versed in what SI does and knows what SI does. So I think all of us are really, really good candidates for this position. But talking about myself now, I have been in student government this is my 3rd year in student government, and last year, as many of you know, I was the Director of Sustainability of Student Government, so I managed the Sustainability Committee of Student Government throughout the 2020 and 2021 school year, which was done completely virtually, so it was a bit challenging, but we made it through, and we were very successful under the leadership kind of style that I developed for the committee, and were able to achieve many things. We started a paper towel composting program in veterinary medicine that has been really successful so far, and we may be expanding that eventually moving forward. Elizabeth probably has more information about that. We also increased recycling in the libraries, and we did some outreach and just a number of other projects that we worked on in Sustainability Committee, and it was a very productive year for us. So I think a lot of that has to do with how I chose to lead the committee and kind of had a more hands-off approach, but obviously that leadership style would change depending on kind of the makeup of SI committee and what works best for our committee members in terms of do we want a more do we want more hands-off or hands-on approach to the leadership? So that's just kind of a little bit on how we lead. My experiences with the SI committee, I've been on SI committee since I was elected as senator, so back around April. I have had experience working on most of the projects that we did last semester in SI. So I was the point of contact for the campus safety walk last semester, as well as the access walk, which I worked on with Senator Thornton, which went very, very well. We had a lot more people than we thought we were going to get, and it was a very good experience for everybody involved. And I did another thing, and I'm blanking on what the other thing was that I did. But overall, I've been very involved with SI committee, and I really enjoy the work that the committee does, and I think it's a very important presence for students. If I were to be elected as the chair of this committee, I would definitely focus a little bit more on kind of fun events for students. We all remember the pumpkin smashing bill and the pumpkin smashing event. That was one of the few times when we did something that was just purely fun in student government, and I think students really enjoyed that. So I kind of want to push for doing some more of those things that are just fun. Obviously, those other things are important too. Mental health is really important. All these things are important, but we also want to give students experiences that are memorable and just let them have fun on campus. And I think SI has a way of doing that. So that's kind of one of the things that I would focus on as SI chair, in addition to the other projects that we are currently working on and discussed at the previous meeting. So yeah, cool, I'll move on. Your turn.
Dang, she stole my idea for fun events. So everybody knows me. I'm Senator Eddie Mahoney, for those of you watching at home. I've been a member of SI since like my second or third week as a senator. So I've been involved with most of the projects that happened last semester. I helped do Wolf and Wellness. I heavily helped with the pumpkin smashing event. I've helped with continuing to move forward with the student counseling services that's being worked on, as well as the Give Us White program. I've helped with the Give Us White program in the past, even being a member of IRHA. A lot of my experience over the years has been in sort of the projects and event planning that SI majorly works on. My freshman year, I was the executive event director for Caroline Crashtacular. So I had a committee of 20 people that we put on that huge concert with, as well as I was the director of leadership for IRHA last year. I had my own committee that I ran there, and we had planned a major banquet as well as a leadership retreat that I helped run and was the main leader for. I was a member of Greek Week Central in 2018, and I helped put on all of Greek Week as the technical director. So I've had a lot of experience running committees, putting on major events, which is such a major portion of what SI does. So I feel confident that I would be able to continue to carry on the great legacy that Evate has built for SI this year, and keep pushing for really, really cool projects. Off the top of my head, I would really love to see SI do some of these more fun projects with events. With the pumpkin smashing event last semester, we had a huge amount of fun. A lot of students came up to us and said this had made their week, and it really did just kind of like elevate, I think, people's day and make people feel good. It also was an amazing outreach opportunity for Iowa State. There was probably thousands of students that just saw our name doing something fun. And I'm really excited for the trivia night that is potentially upcoming. I would love to see more events like that as well. I would really like to continue to push for some of the increased mental health events that are happening. As Senator Evate, or Vice Speaker Evate said earlier, I'm already working on my own project to bring mental health first aid training to Iowa State's campuses, or to Iowa State campus. Hopefully we'll have a bill on the funding for that next week. But I want to continue to just push for these kind of really impactful mental health events, as well as just some more fun events to make this campus even more fun and to help continue to get our name out in a very, very positive light.
We'll open it up to questions from the floor now.
Please no philosophical ones.
Senator Wagmeister.
I'd like to yield my time to President Campbell.
Hey, thank you for each of the work that you've already done and that I know you will all continue to doing regardless of the outcome tonight. I want to ask about your management philosophy or your leadership style when it comes to helping people manage projects and navigate different things that come up in their own initiatives. So could you talk a little bit about how you help people succeed as a leader of people in this role?
All right, yeah, I'll start. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm a little short, so this is hard. My personal leadership style has kind of been, I generally take kind of more of a bit of a hands-off approach, but also keeping in mind the needs of the individual student that I'm working with. So I know that, some students need a little more direction. And so, kind of having those conversations, I think is important with those students to figure out what works best for them. So that's kind of how I approach my leadership. So I've had instances whenever I was director of sustainability where, I had some students who weren't doing as much in the committee and it wasn't really more of a, well, why aren't you doing anything, but just kind of sending them a message or sending them an email saying, hey, is everything okay? Is there something I can do to help you? Like, do you need something from me to feel like you're more able to kind of work on things in the committee, or do you just kind of need some time? So I think at the same time, it's figuring out what your students need, but also like giving them the space that they need as well to do the work that they want to do, not like micromanaging people. And then also just being understanding, because sometimes things happen and, for some reason, maybe students can't be as involved right now, and that's okay. And just kind of having that sense of understanding and caring, I would say, is kind of how I approach my leadership.
So SI committee is obviously very subcommittee based. People form groups around certain projects, and then that group just sort of runs with some oversight from the SI chair and the rest of the committee. I kind of act like a mini Senate at times. And it's one of the really cool things about SI in that everybody is sort of a leader. And so the chair's job, in my opinion, is to continue to empower each individual to find like the project they're super passionate about and like really get into and to really help drive that project. So one of the things I would continue to do is help foster that environment, that if somebody has some cool idea that they're like wildly passionate about and they really all of a sudden have this like spark of genius, getting that going and giving them the tools and resources that they need to like really want to run with it. Even if they're working it on their own, being a kind of a sounding board for them if necessary, where it's like, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Rather than, telling them what to do, giving them just some guidance and general direction. Leadership for me is very much about respect and it being a two-way street. And so I think the more respect that you show the people that you are working with, the more respect you get as a leader. And that's just really how I like to operate. I want to kind of empower each member of SI committee to take on the projects that they really feel comfortable and passionate and excited about doing.
So I really appreciate the subcommittee structure that SI has, because it allows individuals to kind of, manage their own like smaller projects without the chair kind of totally taking control. With that being said, I feel like SI kind of has had issues in the past with subcommittees not being able to totally meet at consistent times, or individuals totally not working together to like move projects on. So I think as a chair, I would want to kind of take more of an initiative towards making sure that the subcommittees are for sure meeting and doing what they need to do, and also communicating with the leaders of said subcommittee and seeing if they want me to kind of do anything to kind of help with these issues, or if there's anything to be done. Yeah, I do take a lot of a hands-on approach when it comes to group projects or past leadership experiences with leadership. And I am not bossy, but I can be like assertive in the sense that I want to make sure that things are getting done properly and on time, but also allowing students, excuses and reasons. And I understand that school is really busy, and just giving them the opportunity to participate, but also making sure they're being held accountable for roles that they're taking over.
Are there any more questions for the nominees? Speaker Weathers.
I move to ask the nominees to exit the room for a candid discussion.
Is there a second? Great. Any discussion? All right.
Object?
You object? Okay, Senator Debate.
Yeah.
Are you objecting, Senator?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you withdraw?
I know that you kind of said that you have a lot of time on your hands to be able to do this role. Are you guys both like super busy right now? And kind of like how will you plan on taking on the time of this role?
So I'm a pretty busy student, as I think most of us are. But as most people see, I spend plenty of time in the office, sometimes screwing around and just having a good time. I do have plenty of time to take on the extra responsibility that the SI chair has over just the normal commitments that one makes to being a part of SI committee. As well, there's other, I am a member of rules, and that's a relatively minimal time commitment. It's just that one meeting a week. And so I'm definitely have the time to make this really impactful commitment.
Like Senator Mahoney, I am also an incredibly busy human. I have been in the chair position of a committee in student government before, so I'm very familiar with the amount of time that it takes to properly fulfill the duties and requirements of this position. So I have no concerns that I will be able to handle the workload. I do have a lot of credits. This tends to happen to people with 2 majors. And I do have a few positions as well that I get paid for, which is super cool. But outside of that, SI is the only committee that I'm involved in student government. Besides lectures, we cannot forget lectures. It's a great committee. Definitely join it if you ever get the chance. So yeah, I have no concerns that I can manage the responsibilities associated with this position.
Any other questions for the nominees while they're in the room? Who? Oh, sorry, Meredith, you go right ahead.
I didn't know if you wanted me to speak because it was kind of directed towards Jennifer and Eddie as to like if they were free. I do have an outrageous amount of free time right now because all I am doing are my classes, I work occasionally, and then I am potentially doing like Senate campaigning and everything. Other than that, I think I would not only be able to do the general expectations and roles that the chair would be expected to do, but I would have extra time to be able to attend every single subcommittee meeting and be a very active part of SI, just not with the normal meetings, but with subcommittees. And I'd be able to, I guess, plan a lot more like activities if I wanted to do other future activities that we don't normally do. I could take a lot of time out of my day to do that because I have a lot of time to spare. Thank you.
All right, now that everyone's has answered the question, sorry about that, Meredith. Is there a motion to ask the candidates to leave the room? Speaker Weathers?
So moved, yeah.
Right, is there a second? Right, any objection? Right. Go ahead and go into discussion period then on the candidates. Speaker Weathers.
Obviously, it's up to all of you. I can throw in my 2 cents. I unfortunately don't know Meredith very well. I do know that she's a dedicated committee member. Unfortunately, that's all I really know about her. I'm not sure if she'd make a qualified leader. I'm sure she would. I just haven't seen it myself. But for me, it's almost a tie between Senator Mahoney and for Senator Seth. I know Senator Mahoney is very passionate. He's on rules. I've worked with him a lot, and he would be very good in this role. But I think if I had to flip a coin, I would want it to land on Senator Seth. I think she does have proven experience that I have actually seen myself in chairing a committee. And she ran sustainability incredibly well last year. They got a heck of a lot of things done, and I think that's something that's admirable in this post. I'd really like to see either of them go into the vice chair position if they don't get the chair. But yeah, I mean, maybe something could change my mind at this point, but that's just where I'm leaning.
Senator Paulson?
I also don't know Meredith that much. I don't know, Adve, if you would feel comfortable in speaking on her, just so we know a little bit more about her and what she's done and stuff?
Is the question about, sorry, could you say
Just
that again?
kind of, I guess, we haven't been able to see more of what she's done, just speaking on like, if you think that she would be a good chair, doesn't mean you'll vote for her, but if you think she would do well in the position.
I believe all the candidates that went up today would be qualified. They've all, at least in the context of SI, they've taken sort of the lead on different projects, and they've worked with other members. So like, for example, the safety walk hit 2 co-leads. It was, I believe, Jennifer Seth and Meredith Mays. And the same thing goes for all 3 of the members. So I do certainly think they would be able to take on the position. That being said, I have no particular inclination to profess in terms of who I prefer.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Senator Claiborne?
I would like to yield my time to Finance Director Zastro.
Yeah, I would just like to say, you guys have all been exposed to Mahoney and Seth this whole time. You've never seen Mays, not too much. She's been around the office. But just because you haven't been around them thank you. Just because you haven't been around them in their professional capacity doesn't mean that they're any less of a fit for this role. When I've been working with SI on purchasing things, when I've been volunteering at events, Meredith Mays has stepped into a leadership role, and I think she's no less qualified just because she's an at-large as opposed to a senator. I just want to say that.
Senator Finaldi?
I just want to say that when I've been involved with tabling or other events, I've seen a lot of Meredith. Excuse me. But I don't know her super well, but I have seen her involved in plenty of events that we've done as student government.
Senator Litt?
Fun fact, Meredith and I actually worked together for about a year at Bath & Body Works in Altoona. She's super nice, super involved. I think she would have great potential to maybe spend more time in the committee and learn more about it, learn about how it's run, and then maybe apply for this for a full term. I think that would be a great place for her to really build the foundation and then step up into that leadership position.
Speaker Weathers?
Sorry, I guess I just wanted to jump in again for an alternative voice. I really do think Senator Seth is a fantastic choice for the role. I think Meredith is obviously involved. I've seen her around a lot. But I don't know that that necessarily equates to making a good chair, just being involved. Senator Seth has proven herself very well. She's an expert in student government. She's been in it a long time. It'd be a shame to see someone who knows how to chair a committee and has done it well, has provenly done it well, not get the position this time. I yield.
Right. Senator Finaldi?
Just quick, does Senator Seth and Mahoney, do they graduate like this? Do we know? Anyone?
Senator Debate, do you have some more clarification on that?
I'll leave my time to Chief of Staff Ludwig. Go ahead.
Senator Seth is going to, as far as I know, graduate in the fall of next year. Eddie Mahoney is applying for grad school, but obviously that's dependent on him getting into grad school. And then I think Meredith Mays is a sophomore. So, yeah, that is where they are on their track.
Thank you for the clarification. If there's no further discussion, is there a motion to bring the candidates back in? Is there a second? Great. Would someone be able to go get them in the hallway? We'll go straight into a voting period then when they come back. I wonder where they went. The name, whoever wins, that'll be like 2/3 or right? When the names are, they come down the whole bill.
No.
Is there a call to question? All right. Is there any objection to voting now? All right. We'll go ahead and go into a voting period. So we'll do a placard vote for this, and we'll go candidate by candidate, and then we'll ask for abstentions at the end. So if the senators running would like to abstain for the vote, you can do so at the end. So we'll start, I'll just go along the line here. Or actually, I'm going to do it in the order that they were nominated in, starting with Meredith. Jennifer? Eddie? All right, and any abstentions? 1, 2, 3. So we do have 26 senators present, so is that's 25. Am I missing? You can put your placard down, sorry. Should I do it one more time just to be sure? Okay, I'm gonna do it one more time just to make sure the voting correct, starting with Jennifer Seth. Quick, sorry about that. Please keep your placard high if you're voting yes. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay. Eddie Mahoney. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Okay. The vote of 15 to 8 to 3, the bill passed. Jennifer Seth will be the new director of SI. So we'll go ahead and fill that in the name there with a majority vote. So now that the name is in the blank, we'll have to vote on the bill as a whole. So if we want to call to question on that, this isn't changing anything. It's just the name is filled in now, and now we're just voting on the bill as a whole to put her as chairperson. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Any closing comments from Vice Speaker Bate? Okay.
I just want to say again, everybody who ran today was a really good candidate, and just because of the results doesn't say anything about their leadership potential. And to the candidates themselves, we still have the vice chair of SI to pick next week. I think that will be another great leadership position that works closely with the chair and is almost just about as important. So again, thank you everyone who ran, and I do really appreciate the fact that you did. I yield.
Right, we'll now go into a vote on that bill as a whole. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to passing the bill unanimously? Right, seeing none, so passed. Right. Moving on to general orders, 2021-3-001Y, changing election commission's violation process with Senator Paulson.
Hi, so Chase has talked about this. This is just kind of updating the election rules, or election commission's violation process. Yeah. Any questions?
Speaker Weathers.
It's okay. I'd like to move the Rules Committee amendments.
A motion and a second to move the Rules Committee amendments. Seeing no objections, we'll go into a discussion period on that. Question has been called for. Is there a second? Great. Go into a voting period on the amendments. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to adding the Rules Committee amendments unanimously? Seeing none, they've been added. Back on the main motion. Speaker Weathers.
Okay, if any of you are confused, please do ask questions. It's a long bill with complicated language. But this bill has mostly come about as the result of conversation and compromise between both the Election Commission and some members of Rules. Since I believe it was the end of last year, the Attorney General was created. The position was primarily to fulfill a prosecutorial role, in the violations process for Election Commission. That would make it so that there was a prosecutor, and then Election Commission is the court that judges whether or not an election violation took place. There were some problems with that. If you have questions about that, I'm sure Chase is more than happy to go into that. He dealt with a lot of the problems that came out of that. But the Attorney General position and the role that fills as a whole is still valuable and still something worth preserving. So this is a compromise between us on that. This makes the Vice Commissioner and the Election Commissioner join the Attorney General in investigating violation complaints. So it's not just the Attorney General. Additionally, it allows for a sort of backup if the Attorney General fails in their duties, because there is a sort of time crunch on a lot of these when it comes to elections. So the Vice Commissioner can step right in. They void all of their voting rights to try to eliminate as much bias as possible. They're no longer involved in the adjudication process with these, and they serve as the prosecutor. I think that's all I think that's really worth noting. But again, please do ask questions and express concerns if you have them.
Senator Mahoney?
I'll let others express some of the, I guess, philosophical objections to this about, not philosophical is the wrong word, but basically changing from potentially an adversarial system, which is what we put in right now, to maybe a more inquisitorial one if the commissioner and vice commissioner are put in. But this is very similar to a debate that happened last year. When the Attorney General position was actually created is when we moved from what was the inquisitorial before, where the commissioner and the vice commissioner were the ones kind of running the show, and the Election Commission were actually investigating and prosecuting, to the adversarial model that we have right now. So this is essentially undoing a fairly major decision that was made last year, and I think it's not a great precedent for us as a body to be like flip-flopping on fairly major issues like that year after year. It's damaging to us. As well, there's some ambiguity for me in the second to last enacted clause about them jointly investigating violations of Chapter 10. Chapter 10 is actually what outlines what the makeup of Election Commission is, what the roles of the Election Commission are, what the roles of the Commissioner and Vice Commissioner and such is. And there's sort of some ambiguity about them like investigating themselves jointly along with others, and it just is a little wishy-washy for me. I'm not super comfortable with it. I'm just not super comfortable with this bill as a whole because it's undoing something that we basically did last year and was a fairly major and substantial decision.
Election Commission Treasurer Krug?
Yeah, to provide some background on the revisions from last year, those revisions were actually created without any input from the Election Commission. The subcommittee actually held meetings and did not invite us to any of them. So they had no knowledge of our election procedures. So the reason that we're here today is to revise and have Election Commission's input in the violations process. And one of the reasons is that when they passed the bill last year, the Election Commissioner quit after that bill was passed because of our how disrespected the senators of that committee did not hear our concerns, did not collaborate with us, didn't understand the process. None of them came to a violation hearing. None of them were present at a violation hearing. So I don't think that bad precedent should be overturned in that case. And I think that the safeguards that we put in place will ensure that people that come before the Election Commission have a fair process. And I also want to add that the Attorney General, in the event they are not available, we have, let's say the Election Commissioner has to step in. The Election Commissioner cannot put forward something that would allow, let's say, so the Attorney General, they can put forward an opinion of what the Commission should do. The Election Commissioner and the Vice Commissioner will not be allowed to do that under our rules. So essentially, what this first step would be in our violation process is essentially someone reading the investigatory report, essentially saying what was investigated, and just sets the scene for the public, which do not have access to this information, but will have access when it's during the public violation hearing. So essentially, that's what their role is. They're just reading the investigatory report. They're not putting forth an opinion. And again, the Vice Commissioner does not have voting rights. Election Commissioner doesn't have voting rights, and neither would have speaking privileges. So essentially, they're just fulfilling the role of reading the report, just to clarify. But yeah.
Vice Speaker debate.
I think, and if you haven't read the bill yet, I would really encourage you to, but I think I'm going to be joining a couple senators in having reservations about what the bill is and what exactly it does. The way I recall it, the adversarial process was introduced to essentially, in the interest of fairness, what we wanted to do. So an adversarial process is essentially what you see in our courts throughout the country and even in our Supreme Court here, in the sense that the individuals reporting you, the individuals prosecuting you, and then the individuals adjudicating or judging the case are all independent, distinct individuals. And you see this happen in the real world. A very good benefit of this is that it preserves due process. For example, if you are arrested by a police officer, the officer will not be prosecuting you in a court of law. That decision stands to the prosecutor, who might be the district attorney or who have you, and they look at that case as an outside individual independently on the merits of the case itself, and then they determine whether or not it is a good idea, a good expenditure of government resources to go ahead with that prosecution. Obviously, if the police officer were given the chance, they would think you've done something wrong and they'd want to go ahead with the prosecution 100% of the time. Having an independent individual sort of keeps due process going. We believed it was best in the interest of fairness. That is why I believe Senate passed this the last time it came up. Another concern I have is under the adversarial process, Election Commission, part of Election Commission, to be correct, acts as sort of a court, and having somebody who's part of the same larger organization prosecuting the case in front of a subset, in this case, I believe the Violations Committee, is, again, I think a little too close, and it's not maintaining that separation as we should. I would certainly encourage Senate to think about this not in terms of how people felt, but more in terms of the technicalities of it, the mechanisms that we've put in place, and how it may or may not work. I recall we had a very long discussion the last time this bill came up. If I'm recalling correctly, we went over the timeline on that bill. All the individuals involved had multiple speaking privileges to express their views, and then Senate made a decision on the merits of the case. I would enjoin Senate to do that again today. With that, I'm going to yield.
Speaker Weathers.
Yeah, Ed Bate and I were both on the subcommittee of rules that created the Attorney General position, and I don't think it behooves any of us to get into a debate on how it was created. The fact of the matter is that we both stand behind the Attorney General position. Senate stood behind it, and I think it is a valuable part of the violations process. Though I do agree with Chase on this bill, I think the changes here are to make the position functioning. I don't think we're undoing anything that we enshrined last year. If everything functions as it should, post passing of this bill, the Attorney General will still be the prosecutor, will still be leading the investigations, and ideally there would be no conflict of interest. The big changes here are, just in case everything doesn't function as it should, doesn't function ideally, if the Attorney General can't meet their duties, then we fall back onto really the only option we have left, which is having the Vice Commissioner or Election Commissioner be the prosecutor. That's not ideal, obviously, because there is some bias. The Violations Committee is going to have some sort of preference, or going to have some sort of desire to agree potentially with the Vice Commissioner or Election Commissioner, but it really is the best option we have if it's not the Attorney General, because who else is going to know enough about election code, enough about Election Commission in order to prosecute these cases and handle the complaints and the entire process. It is a confusing process, so we need somebody, if not the Attorney General, to step in. I'll yield for now.
Election Commission Treasurer Krug.
Yeah, I think this is a good compromise bill. I do want to add that the Election Commission is not solely a court. We are an administrative body as well. The Federal Election Commission works similarly to what this would do. We're very different from the Supreme Court. Even though we are in the rules of the court, our procedures are very and vastly different. So I think that this bill fills the requirements that we have. It solves the issues that we've encountered from the past year. Most schools have similar procedures as well. And if there is an issue, there is a formal appeals process through the Supreme Court. So I think that covers all of our bases, and I think that you guys should vote in favor of this bill. Thank you.
Senator Seth.
So I have a question that I'd like to direct to Treasurer Krug. So let's say that this bill doesn't pass. What kind of impacts, potentially negative or positive, I guess, could you foresee occurring saying we don't pass this bill?
I think one of them is liability. I did, in one of my sections, I did highlight liability. The Election Commission is responsible for the events we put on and any of activities we put on. I think it's important that there is someone that knows the liability risk of the Election Commission, being able to see the information come through. Again, injunctions were another point. An injunction is something that is an emergency stop. It's used to prevent further damage to the integrity of the election. In the case where someone is unable, let's say the Attorney General is unable to attend that, the Election Commission will have to reschedule a hearing later than the normal 48 hours, and the injunction stays until it's dealt with at a violation hearing. So the person that has been implemented, has the injunction, is not getting their due justice, and it's being delayed to be seen in front of the court. So I think those are some very big issues, scheduling conflicts, and the like. But I think this is a good bill that kind of covers all those bases. If that answers your question, I think that's...
Yeah, that pretty much answers my question. I was just going to ask maybe like a small follow-up question. So say like somebody needs to go through the violation hearing process and we have to reschedule their hearing because the Attorney General can't attend. Would it be then possible that it potentially like the hearing would be scheduled for like after the elections, and that could impact their ability to be on the ballot? Is that correct?
That actually occurred almost occurred 2 years ago. That the violation occurred the day before the election. In that case, we would have to most likely see if that violation impacted the fairness of the election, and that might have to push us to decertify or nullify their race. So again, delays have consequences for both the person who has submitted the complaint and the person who is the respondent.
Okay, thank you. That answers my questions. I will yield.
Vice Speaker Debate.
I guess after listening to discussion, where I'm standing on that is surely if there is really no other route to go through it, in the interest of time, I can see why you'd want the Election Commission to prosecute it essentially before itself. But that being said, I do think the bill as it stands is a little broader than that. It's essentially, it does a little more than just take over the duties of the Attorney General when the Attorney General isn't present. It also essentially gives the Election Commission the dual authority almost with the Attorney General on the same level as the Attorney General. So if we're willing to narrow down the language to make it very clear that the Election Commission's only stepping in if the Attorney General is incapacitated, maybe that's something I think could be a good compromise. But as it stands right now, the Attorney General could be well and alive and on the job, and they could make in their professional opinion, a decision not to prosecute a case, and then Election Commission can still jump in and say, we want to prosecute it anyway. I think if we're restricting that, this can be a good backup emergency measure, if I'm understanding the arguments that have been put up correctly. I'm sure lots of people are going to have lots to say on that. Also, in terms of the Attorney General itself, I do believe when it was written, the argument that was being made for it was that and this is what the bylaws say right now, the Chief Justice can appoint a new Attorney General immediately if the current Attorney General is incapacitated. What that could look like when we discussed it, I think, is generally towards the end of a term, there's always senators who have been spending a lot of time in student government, are about to graduate, they're not really invested in races one way or another. We envision the Chief Justice being able to pick those. Worst case scenario, the Chief Justice can also pick someone from the Election Commission if they really have to, and I think that's actually a better alternative because then they're pulled out of Election Commission. Now they're prosecuting it from outside the organization, as it should in the interest of fairness and to limit bias that comes from being in the same organization. I'll yield.
Senator Lunt.
I will yield my time to Treasurer Krug, but I do have a question before. What were the problems that you saw with this past election cycle that are solved by this? That's just where I'm a little confused. Like,
Yes,
if you have examples, I yield to you.
Okay. Yeah, so scheduling conflicts, our scheduling, it was about a week to 2 weeks from our normal 48 hours standard practice. Liability, we were unable to search out for liability risk that would occur, and we need to know that throughout the election cycle. It can't just be the Attorney General's off somewhere, knows about something, and then it somehow comes to us a week later. That week period could have enormous impact on either breaking university policy and the repercussions from breaking university policy from that. And then additionally, we had issues with injunctions. I know some people were issued injunctions and we were unable to meet the 48-hour standard. That was pushed off for almost a week, and that affected their campaign. So those type of issues are fixed by this bill. And I think it's important that there is someone knowledgeable about the many policies of the universities that we have to follow that no single individual would ever be able to do alone, if that makes sense.
If you had anything else you wanted to say in response, I'd be willing to give you the rest of my time.
Yeah, I think the liability issue is one of the greatest ones, the delays, the injunctions. I think I put something else here, if I can just pull it up. I'm not pulling it up. So those are the issues that we've we've addressed, or that we're trying to address in the bill. Again, I think that there's going to need to be someone who is knowledgeable about election law, who is able to act under these circumstances. 2 years ago, we had 14 cases come before the violation hearing, or they come before the Election Commission in a period of 4 weeks. That took enormous effort on 3 individuals of the Violations Committee to conduct the investigatory role, to bring it to the hearing committee and bring it to the Election Commission. So a single individual having 18 cases is going to be overwhelming and will push greater responsibilities on a single individual. But yeah.
Senator Wagmeister.
I'll yield my time to former Election Commission member Trevor Poundstone.
I was the vice commissioner during, I guess, right after the Attorney General bill was passed. And it did make it a little bit more interesting. There's a lot of documentation process that goes on, and so there was a lot more of communication that needed to happen. Like Chase said, it was kind of hard with bringing in a new person into this role, not knowing anything about our election process or our election code. And I think that's not going to really change from person to person because, they're going to be a new person. And like you said, having someone who knows what they're doing and can, make sure they're following all the processes is important. Then, yeah, the scheduling thing was really, that was the biggest thing, trying to get I think it was 10 to 14 people, in a meeting 3 or 4 times a week. And that wasn't great, so.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, is there a call to question? Is there a second? Second. Any objection to voting now? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and go to closing comments with Senator Paulson. No closing comments? All right. We'll go ahead and go into a roll call vote. Please vote yes, no, or abstain, starting with Advait.
No.
Adegarla. Yes. Ulrich.
Yes.
Brecht.
No.
Claiborne.
Yes.
DeVore.
No.
Filippi. No. Finaldi. Yes. Goff.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
Lent. Yes. Mahoney.
No.
McCready.
Yes.
Patel.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Ruley.
Yes.
Schnepp.
No.
Seth.
Yes.
Sayaway.
Yes.
Skaggs.
Yes.
Stout.
Yes.
Strickland.
Yes.
Thornton.
Yes.
Wagmeister.
Yes.
Weathers.
Yes.
Zuber.
No.
Did you say no? We have a vote of 19 to 7 to 1. The bill passes. Moving on to 2021-3-005F Election Commission line item transfer with Senator Claiborne.
If Election Commission Treasurer Krug wants to speak on what this line item transfer is.
Yes, so the CSSM, Center for Statistical Service and Methodology, got back to me on the quote for the ballot system for the elections. It was $200 increase from last year, according to them. There was an increase in labor cost. So I requested public relations funds of $200 to be passed from public funds to the ballot system because it's required to have an election. We'll need a ballot system. And the nice thing about working with CSSM is that they'll actually reimburse us for money that is not used during the process. So they'll reimburse us at the end of the fiscal year if they do not use the full $4,800. And then the second option, the second line item is for the debates, ASL interpreters. Essentially, that we have to pay. It's called door to door. Essentially, it's the time from when they leave their place of residence to the event and back to their place of residence. The time that it takes is we pay $30 per 30 minutes, every half hour. So essentially what this would do is allow us to have ASL interpreters, 4 interpreters spread across the 2 debates, so 2 per debate for 2 hours. And last year we had 3,014 people watch the debate live stream, so well above what we normally receive on our YouTube channel. So I think it's very important that we have these ASL interpreters come to the event. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Oh, Senator Litt?
I just have a question on the ASL interpreters for Treasurer Krug. Oh,
I thought we were waiving first read.
I move to waive first read.
Excuse me. There's been a motion to waive first read, and it's been seconded. Go ahead and go into discussion on that. Senator Debate.
Senator Claiborne, could you speak to the necessity to waive, to do what you're doing?
If Treasurer Krug wants to answer that question.
Yes, so it's very important that we waive first read because I will have to cancel the ASL interpreters before their cancellation date. If I do not do that, we will be charged whatever the cost would be. So I have to cancel in the next probably 4 to 5 days. So that's the urgency of the situation. If you have any questions, let me know.
That sounds pretty reasonable. I yield and call the question.
Question's been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? We're voting on a waiving first read right now. We'll go ahead and go into a voting period. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to waiving first read? All right, seeing none. Now we're in the main motion. Senator Lent.
so sorry. I do have a question about the ASL interpreters for Treasurer Krug. I was just wondering if, like, where are the interpreters coming from? Like, what company are you in contact with?
So this company is based in Des Moines. Essentially how it works, it's a third-party service. So they put out, this is an event that they're requesting ASL interpreters, and they connect point A to point B. So essentially, ASL interpreters around Iowa, they put it out. Whoever signs up for the event is signed up, and then we pay them from point of their residence to the event and back, essentially.
Is there a reason we weren't using interpreters from student accessibility?
So student accessibility actually requires someone who is deaf to be covered under those policies. So last year we ran into this issue is where we requested ASL interpreters, but we did not have a specific student request them. So we requested them from Election Commission. And essentially they said that it doesn't follow under their policies, so we have to go through a third party, essentially.
Thank you. That was my only question.
Speaker Weathers.
Does anyone, Finance Committee or Chase, know what the total is then that we're looking at for paying an ASL interpreter? Or interpreters?
Yeah, so the first bill is for 580, and then this is an additional 700, so that'd be 1280.
Okay, Senator Lund.
So I did talk with student accessibility, and the rate is similar before the travel funds. So it's at least starting at an equal rate to what student accessibility would be.
Sure. Okay. And a question for Chase then. Are we expecting to pay the full amount that we're transferring here?
So I have to add padding because I don't know where the person that's coming, where they're coming from. So I padded it for a 2-hour radius around Ames. And essentially, they'll give me give me the bill. And if they are, let's say, in Ankeny, it'd only be 30-minute travel time, and then 30 minutes back, so it'd be an hour. So I have to add padding in case that there's from a larger area around the area, so 2 hours. So I'm guessing it's not going to be as much as what I've requested, but I just need enough padding to ensure that I'm able to pay them. And this is a line item transfer, so these funds have already been allocated.
Sure. Yeah, the funds have already been allocated, but that's not to say that if we could put them somewhere else if we didn't do this. It seems fairly expensive to me. I understand that may be the going rate, but it's like what 30 minutes per $30 per 30 minutes is $60 an hour for driving. I'm not underestimating the usefulness of an ASL interpreter, but has anyone explored alternative means, maybe a transcript after the fact or closed captioning, or something that's far less expensive, maybe? I guess, Chase, did we look at any sort of alternative?
Extend your time to Director Khan.
Yeah, Director Khan.
Hey, so in terms of like alternatives, there are live auto-generated captions based off like machine learning magic. Those are fairly hit or miss sometimes. So I would definitely say that an ASL interpreter would be far more accurate. And then there's the idea of a transcript after the fact. While that can be something that's like bespoke, made by someone that's not a machine learning algorithm, and thus be more accurate, it will be after the fact. And considering that they do take into account student questions or like public questions, I feel like that kind of defeat the purpose of it if they aren't able to interact with it live. But those are things in terms of like other options.
Okay, I'm not sure where I'm standing at on time, but one final question. Do you have any sort of indication as to the percentage of students at Iowa State who are hearing impaired?
Kit, do you know this question? I do know it's on the student accessibility website. I believe
Someone
it's
be able to look it up quick? Sorry, go ahead.
Do you want me to do it?
No, someone in the body can. There's a lot of people here.
My question was more indicating whether or not it had been sought out before. But if you have the number, yeah, please.
A few years ago, it was within 1% to 3%.
Okay. I yield.
So that would be a few thousand students.
1% to 3%.
A few hundred.
It's 35 is what it says.
35 students.
As of 2015.
Okay. Great. Senator Claiborne.
I would like to yield my time to Director Booman.
Hi, guys. I do understand from the financial perspective, but also if we're thinking about our points this year, one of our main goals this year was talking about diversity and inclusion and being a more inclusive student government. And although 35 students doesn't seem like a lot, for them, this is their whole life. Maybe they really want to be involved in student government, but we don't have the faculty, we don't have the staff in student accessibility services. A lot of people don't have the proper training to be able to do that. So although 35 students doesn't seem like a lot, this could mean the world to them. And not only that, if this is going to be recorded, more than 35 students could see it. It could go global. We don't know. Maybe they love that we have all of these ASL interpreters, and maybe they love that the interpreters can interact with the students. Maybe the hard of hearing students have questions. Maybe there are students who aren't completely deaf but are hard of hearing and still use ASL. There are other students out there that we have to think about, and when we are able-bodied and when we are able-minded, that's not something that we always think about. So just put that into perspective that although it's a few students, think about how that would impact their life. And we're talking about inclusivity here with student government. Would you want them to interact with us? Do you want us to reach that part of student accessibility services and that part of the Ames community? That's all to think about.
Senator Wagmeister.
Moving down.
Senator Filippi.
So what Chase said earlier was that if a student, how the ASL interpreters needed to be requested was if there was a student who was hearing impaired. So I guess if there's students who are interested in coming to this and they are hearing impaired, then it would work for the ASL interpreters to come to that, by my understanding.
So they're for the student, they're not for the debate. So the student is going to get the ASL interpreter, and then the ASL interpreter will not be recorded in a live stream, if you know what I mean. So the ASL interpreters are going to have their own camera that's directed it's two slides, so two slides, and then the ASL interpreters on either slide. So student accessibility provides an ASL interpreter to the student, not to the election commission or a student organization, if that makes sense.
Right, so that still goes with what I'm saying, because then that student's needs are going to be met no matter what, and the fact that there's only 35 students who are hearing impaired at Iowa State, the probability of 35 students watching the debates when, excuse me if my percentage is wrong, only 14% of the university takes part in student government and elections. I feel like having that student being able to request the ASL interpreter from the services still meets their needs without us having to spend, what is it, $750 for 35 students.
Do you have a question, or?
If you have any comments.
Oh, I do think it's important that we, as a student organization, are accessible to everyone and anyone. I think that having a live stream with an ASL interpreter provides more opportunities for people to go and watch the debate after the fact. I think if there are people that are hearing impaired that are not accounted for, your statistics would probably be off. But I do think that's important that we have all opportunities open for students of all of Iowa State.
And I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that accessibility and including everyone is super important, but it's also important to keep finances in mind when just the ratio doesn't make sense with how much we'd be spending for the percentage of students who may have this disability. So I yield.
Senator Thornton.
I have a question for you, Chase. Are students going to be allowed to attend the debates in person?
Yes, we are planning for them to be in person.
Okay, great. So this just goes on to the earlier question about if closed captions had been pursued. Those aren't necessarily viable for when you're sitting in front of a person. Closed captions don't just appear in front of a live conversation with somebody, which is why an interpreter would be necessary. And so just a reminder that we've already passed a bill. This is a line item transfer for it to be cushioned so that additional finances. We've already agreed to spend more than $700 on these interpreters. We're allocating the additional money so that we don't have to cancel them and still pay them. And with that, I'd like to yield to the Director of DEI.
I'm back. Sorry, guys. So one thing that Emmy said, so closed captioning isn't always accurate. A lot of the times closed captioning will come on a little bit of time after they've spoken, and whether that's accurate or not, that's great, but if a student wants to engage, how would they be able to engage if there aren't any interpreters, if there aren't people there that are going to be able to hear them? And also a big thing that we're trying to do this year is outreach. Maybe there are those students who are interested, but they don't know about student government because we don't have interpreters. We want to be inclusive. We want to reach the students who aren't in our grasp. And this could be just the way to do that. And not only that, we would be setting precedent to not only Iowa State University, but to the other Big 12 schools that inclusivity is in. We are doing the most that we can to create a diverse and inclusive student government for all students, no matter how small the ratio is on this campus. So that's something to really keep in mind, that I know, like we said, yeah, student government has the funds. Yeah, is the ratio equitable? Probably not, but we do have the funds, we do have the means. I think that this is something that we should absolutely go for. Otherwise, imagine yourself in that situation. Maybe there are students who are interested in student government, but they don't know how to communicate with us. Are we gonna fail them that opportunity? I yield.
Senator Finaldi.
I'd like to yield time to Chief of Staff Ludwig.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say a couple words on this. I know there's a little bit of sticker shock with this. It's a lot of money, but I think we talk a lot about representing all students and bringing students into the process and saying we want to reach out and engage students. And for students who are hard of hearing, we have to go that extra mile. We have to do a little bit more work, and it might be disproportionate to the amount of money that they contribute in student fees, but that's not how the system works. Not everyone's going to get, their $42 back in perfect value. We are working to make sure that everyone can be involved in the selection process. Everyone should be able to engage, to come to these debates. We should be prepared for them. They shouldn't have to prepare to come to us. So I think despite the cost, this is a no-brainer. I really encourage all of you to vote yes. The fact that we have spent this much time debating on whether or not students should be able to engage with our debates is honestly upsetting to me. So I yield.
Senator Advait.
I almost have something of a different angle to get at this with, and inclusion is good. I don't think anybody here is going to disagree with that. I guess my question is really coming from the point of do regular non-student government students even care about our debates that much? I mean, none of us, to the best of my knowledge, are really part of this community, and I guess the question I have is, it feels a little hollow for us running ahead without any input from the people this is actually going to affect. And I think they might have a very important voice to add to this conversation. In the grand scheme of things, $1,200 is a drop in the bucket. That being said, I believe we do have an ASC club on campus. Has anyone, I guess this is a question to the sponsors, has anyone talked to them or anyone from that community? I don't know how they would take this. Given the kind of attitude people have towards student government in general, and I mean this really in the best faith. I also agree completely with everything Chief of Staff Ludwig just said, but I can see how they can think it's ridiculously self-important of us to spend $1,200 on this when we could donate it to something that their club is actually doing. And I think it's important for their voices to be part of this conversation. I really want to know if we've reached out to anybody from that community to get their input on this. Senator Claiborne or Senator Lent, do you have anything to say?
I mean, I guess I don't have a whole lot, but I did reach out to a friend that is hearing impaired, and I said that we were hoping to get someone. Do you know who to reach out to? And she sent me to Student Accessibility Services. She was really excited that I asked her about this, and she seemed really excited about having the opportunity to have this accessibility.
Last year, Emeritus Senator Crabb, she was the driver of this initiative. I believe she did look out and searched and talked to people. I don't have any minutes or anything, but I do believe she talked to people.
I think that's really fair, and I just want everyone to understand I genuinely do believe in this, and I certainly do see myself voting yes in the sense that if it's going to reach out to even a couple students, it's probably more than well worth how much we're putting in. And I mean, we didn't even run through all of our budget last year. We had plenty of money left over, so if we're putting our extra funds into inclusion, I don't see how that's going to hurt us in any way, shape, or form. I yield and call the question.
Is there any objection? Do you withdraw? All right. Senator Philippi.
Can I pose a question to Treasurer Krug? Are we hiring translators for Spanish, Mandarin, or Arabic, since we're talking about inclusivity for all students?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Senator Claiborne and Senator Lent.
So during the VPDI search, I got the wonderful opportunity to actually sit on interviews, and the vice president of GPSS, which is the Graduate Student Senate, is hard of hearing. So obviously it doesn't affect this Senate directly, but there is another Senate, another student body organization on campus with an elected higher official that is hard of hearing. My uncle is deaf, and this is really close to me because it's just hard for hard of hearing and hearing impaired and deaf people to get the resources that they need. And also, to be an interpreter, after 15 to 20 minutes, the physical demand of interpreting, their interpretation skyrockets down, and it creates more errors. So having these interpreters, and if there is, say, 5 students that want to come out of the 35, and they have to have 2 interpreters each, we run out of interpreters on campus because according to the Inside Iowa State, which is the staff newsletter that comes out, the sensory services coordinator says that at most we have 6 or 8 interpreters on campus at one time. So if you do the math, that would be more than 6 or 8 for one group. And if there are more, then obviously we need more. So just going off back and forth between these 2 interpreters will help everyone. If there is a large number, if there isn't, we still have this resource, and we're still going to this community and saying that we understand that you have this disability that you can't change, and we want to be a part of your life at Iowa State because, again, we represent all students here at Iowa State.
Senator Litt.
I want to start off that I do have reservations about the bill, not at all having to do with having accessibility, having an interpreter. For those that do have financial reservations, if each student is paying $42, then there's like fees that they've put towards this are over $200 more than what we're spending on this. So like we're spending their fees for them. So that kind of, I could be completely wrong on that, but I feel like that kind of works out. My reservation is that I would just really like to work with university services. I understand if I'm completely misunderstanding what we've been through with that already, but I would really, I think that's a great opportunity for us to connect with university services and strengthen connections there and use local resources. So I yield.
Senator Mahoney.
I'm usually not one to do this, but I'm going to. For earlier today, we passed a bill for $3,500 for 20 students to go to host a competition that would impact 20 students. We funded them $3,500 unanimously. We're talking about funding $1,250 now for 35 we know about students potentially. So we're talking about potentially a lot greater. Dollar for dollar, we've already set the precedence that we'll fund this. Vote yes.
Speaker Weathers.
In all fairness, Senator Mahoney, I don't know if that's necessarily a fair argument to make. I mean, those students that we're funding are guaranteed to show up. We have students coming up from across the Big 12. That's a guaranteed. We know what we're getting. I really don't want to make this an accessibility thing. I apologize if that's what it's become. I'm not opposed to anything to benefiting that community. I just want to make sure that we're not all sitting around this table making hollow gestures for the purposes of virtue signaling, I guess. I want to make sure that if we are using this money to benefit that community, we're doing it in a way that actually benefits that community. If students who are coming to the debate can bring an ASL interpreter provided by Student Accessibility Services, they can do that so they can participate live. Otherwise, we have closed captioning or transcripts for after the fact if they're not there in person. So as far as I see it, that seems like that's addressed if they can bring an interpreter to the event live, or if they can have transcripts or closed captioning after the fact. It seems like they can participate in the event. Everyone can participate that way. Yeah, beyond that, I mean, it raises the question of why we're not having an ASL interpreter for Senate meetings. Obviously, the watch rate on that is low, but the amount of hearing impaired students who would be attending the debate live is, in actuality, probably very low as well. So I guess the question is whether or not we're doing this to actually benefit the community, or if we're doing it for the purposes of appearance and show. I yield.
Senator Claiborne.
I yield my time to Finance Director Zastro.
I just want to say a couple things. So regarding the total cost of this, this bill, well, first of all, there are 2 memos here. Let's not forget about the first line item transfer that I don't think a single person in here has a problem with. So if anybody intends voting no on the bill, please make an amendment to remove memo 2 instead of voting no on the bill. That first line item transfer still should get passed. Also, so the total for the ASL interpreters, effectively, if this line item transfers fails, the money that we've already allocated is just going to come back to us. Also, if this line item transfer passes, the money goes through, the money gets spent on the transfers. Any part of the 1,200 total allocated that isn't spent on the service of the translators and the transportation will come back to us. So the over budgeting $700, some of that I'm sure is going to come back to us. I don't know if it's going to be $20 or $200 or whatever, but that's just something to consider. I would also like to say that just because it's a smaller amount of money means it's no less worthy taking a closer look at. This is still student fee dollars, so still consider that. I think this conversation definitely is worth having. Thank you.
All right, Senator DeVore.
I agree with some of the comments that Speaker Weathers and Finance Director Zastro said. I am certainly not arguing about the merits of this bill on the basis of accessibility. I think that accessibility is something that we're all for, but I'm disappointed in the amount of in the irresponsibility that some of senators and members of the executive branch are having with student money. I don't think that any of our constituents would be happy if they were aware that we are just using terms like it's just a drop in the bucket for $1,200. I don't know about all of you, but $1,200 is a lot of money to me. And as far I know that this bill does not have a price tag on it because it is money that's already allocated. But I am comfortable with allocating $500 to an interpreter, a sign language interpreter. But I am not comfortable allocating $1,200 to a sign language interpreter. So that's where I'm currently at on the bill. I essentially just wanted to share with you all that I'm not voting down this bill on the merit of accessibility. Thank you.
Senator Paulson.
Hi, I just, some of with the comments of just well, we have this money, we shouldn't spend it, we should do something else with it and not have it potentially be wasted money and stuff. But realistically, can we say that what will we be doing with that money that doesn't get spent then? Are we going to be putting it back towards this community, or what are we going to be doing? Because from how I'm viewing this, it seems like this is essentially one of the only things that StudentGov does for the hearing impaired community. So I feel like this is the bare minimum we could be doing. And yes, 35 students, but we were all voted in by these students and stuff. So I don't think that their voices should be heard any less than students who can hear.
Senator Larson.
Okay, I'm not sure who to direct my question to, but for paying for the mileage, is that a student government thing, or is that the third party requesting that? Yes.
Do you have your time?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not mileage, it's time. So whatever the time, whatever it takes, if they speed, whatever the time is from their residence to the event and back. But that is what the company, that's just their rate. So it's just a $30 rate, essentially.
Okay, so that, just for clarification, that is set by the company and not one of our policies.
Correct.
Okay, and then my next point, just to point it out, is I looked up the Deaf Impaired School of Iowa, and they have a spreadsheet of Iowa interpreters, where they live, their hourly rates, and all their qualifications to be an interpreter. And one of them actually lives in Ames/Webster City area and pays $35 hourly. And there's an entire spreadsheet on that at the Deaf and Blind School. I don't know if that's really relevant, but I just looked it up really quick. So there are other resources we would maybe be able to reach out to. I'm just pointing that out, but I yield.
Senator Finaldi.
I'd like to yield my time to Director of DEI.
I'm standing up for this one. So a few of the comments were a little upsetting. As far as student funds go, I know that $700 is $700. I'm diabetic. Everything that I spend is $25 grand a year plus more. And similar to what people have said, $700 in the long scheme of things is not a whole lot of money. What else are we going to do with it? We are doing the bare minimum here, people. The bare minimum. The reason that marginalized communities don't engage in student government is because they're afraid and because we don't create an inclusive room. I mean, think about it. Why do we not have a lot of representation in the committee? I mean, in student government? Why do we not have all of these people wanting to reach out? I work with student accessibility services. I work with the ADA student group. This is what I do as DEI director. I speak with these people all the time. I know people are interested in. I know people want to be here, but they don't feel like they have a place here, and they don't feel like they're comfortable here. And if we can't do the bare minimum to get interpreters, whether nobody comes or whether 100 people come, so what? What else is the money going to be used for? If we want to show people that we are engaged into meeting them where they're at, we have to take the money that we have and meet them where they're at. These people need interpreters their whole life. It's not like they're just going to start hearing again. Are we just going to not offer them that service? Yes, I understand. If students want to come, they can bring their own interpreter. And that's fine. I understand that. But that shouldn't have to be on them. Like we said before, we are student government. We want to reach all parts of the students, all parts of the student body. If this is part of the outreach that we want to do, and if you guys are going to say, yes, I stand for diversity and inclusion, and that is a goal this year, you have to show it. Otherwise, we're all talk. How are we any better than the politicians in DC? I mean, think about it. What are we doing here? Are we really having this much of a debate over ASL interpreters for students? Again, $700. I understand that can be a lot of money, but this is someone's life. What if this is the thing that really puts them over the edge and really wants to make them run for student government and make a change? That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Senator Lett.
I believe that I'm going to vote yes, because I don't know if student accessibility services will work out. I would love to still be able to try to pursue that, and then if it doesn't, we would get the money back. I personally am certain that a majority of my constituency would be glad to see this use of funds, especially because I ran on accessibility. So despite my reservations, I want to have the funding available in case we cannot make it work. I just wonder where we draw the line at how much to spend on making our own events accessible to everyone. Where is the line drawn? Because if this is too much, like, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't really finish that. With that, I would like to move to remove Senator McCready from the roll, not to the roll.
All right, any objection? Senator McCready's been removed from the roll. All right, Senator Rulli.
I don't know if this is the right time to make this motion, but I'd like to move to separate the vote based on memos 1 and memo 2, just so we can vote separately on them.
Been a motion and a second to split the memos on the bill. We'll have to go into a discussion period on that.
Yeah, memo 1 is just the $200 extra for the ballot system. That one, I
So we might be able to do this a little bit simpler if we make an amendment to strike. So here, Senator Debate, would you like to speak quick and then come back? Yep.
So I think a clear way to do this would be to just strike memo 2 from the bill, and then the vote on that amendment would effectively be the vote on whether or not the Senate wants to include that in this bill. So I will make that motion right now.
So it's memo 2. Yep. So there's been a motion to strike strike memo 2. Is there a second? What did you say? Yeah, do you object to this new?
No, I'll withdraw mine.
Okay, perfect. So now we're on a new one. So there's been a motion to strike memo 2. Is there a second? All right, we'll go into a discussion period on that. Question has been called for. Is there a second? Is there a second? Any objection to voting now? This is on the amendment, so this would be striking memo 2. We'll go ahead and go into a vote on that. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to striking memo 2 on the bill? All right, seeing none. There is a...
Striking it would remove it from the bill.
Yes. All right, so we'll go ahead and go into a vote then on that. So we'll do a placard vote, so please vote yes, no, or abstain. This is on whether or not we should strike memo 2 on the bill. Roll call vote, yes. All right. Please vote yes, no, or abstain once I say your name. Ed Vate.
Yes.
Yes. Adagarla. Adagarla. Ulrich. No. Brecht. Yes. Claiborne. No. DeVore.
Yes.
Filippi. Yes. Finaldi. Goff. No. Larson. Lent. Yes. Mahoney.
No.
McCready. Patel.
No.
Paulson.
No.
Ruley.
No.
Schnepp.
No.
Seth.
No.
Sayaway.
No.
Skaggs. Stout. Strickland.
No.
Thornton. Wagmeister. Weathers.
Yes.
Zuber. And Adagarla.
No.
All right, of a vote of 9 to 16 to 0, the amendment fails. We're back on the main motion. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and go into closing comments with Senator Claiborne. Yes, closing comments? No closing comments? Okay, no closing comments. We'll go ahead and go into a voting period.
Object.
Point of order, it can't be used anyway.
Yeah, since this is a bylaw bill, we'll have to do roll call. That's good. Okay. Excuse me, yeah, finance bill, that's what I meant, not a bylaw. Finance bills are a roll call vote, so we'll go ahead and go into a roll call vote. This is on the bill as a whole. Please vote yes nor abstain once I say your name. Ed Vate. Adagarla. Ulrich.
Yes.
Brecht. Blythe. Claiborne.
Yes.
DeVore.
No.
Filippi. No. Finaldi.
Yes.
Goff.
Yes.
Larson.
No.
Lent.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Patel. Paulson.
Yes.
Ruley.
Yes.
Schnepp.
Yes.
Seth.
Yes.
Sayaway.
Yes.
Skaggs.
Yes.
Stout.
No.
Strickland.
Yes.
Thornton.
Yes.
Wagmeister. Weathers.
Yes.
Zuber. Ed Vate. Adagarla.
Yes.
Brecht.
No.
A vote of 20 to 5 to 0, the bill passes. All right, moving on to new business, 2021-3-004Y, establishing at-large committee standards with Vice Speaker Ed Vate.
Right, so as the bill states, there are currently no codified standards for committee at-large attendance and expectations as there are for senators. What this means is effectively enforcement is up to individual chairs and how busy they are and how much attention they're devoting to different aspects of a committee's function. What this would do is essentially replace that subjective process with something more of a objective standard that I think would be better in the interest of fairness and would help us be more equal across the board in how we're dealing with all of our members and affording them almost if I may go so far, due process. This will be seen in rules next week. If you have questions of intent, hit me up or ask me after the meeting. I yield.
Any questions of intent for Senator Vape? All right, seeing none, we'll go into closing comments. Please raise your placard if you have something to say. Senator Lent.
Please pick up your sweatshirts in the Senate office and sign your name when you pick it up. Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and go along the back table. So starting with Zastro.
Howdy, y'all. I just want to say election season is getting started. I don't know why I'm holding my laptop. Sorry. So election season is getting started. I think that this is just a good reminder, and I'm going to be giving it to all of you periodically. We're all students. We're all people. We're going to make mistakes. Please, there's a great phrase that Rob Sand once said, don't attribute to malice what can be attributed to being human. So I don't know. Just keep that in mind as things might be getting a little more tense. I know that, school's going to be heating up. But, we're all people. Let's remember that.
Hey, I just want to let you know, nothing personal. This is how I advocate. I promise you I'm really a nice person, and I do not mean any bad intention with any of you. I'm glad that we're able to have this discussion and conversation and that we can really have ideas and get things going like this. So that's all I wanted to say. I promise I'm not mean. Have a good night.
Hello, everyone. Speaking of election season, for those of you wishing to run for any sort of elected position, whether it be re-election or something new, there's a handy little spreadsheet that Election Commission has that has like all of your info, description, like bio, that sort of thing. Please update that as soon as you can. Never mind. But in the event that when you're doing stuff for that, when the opportunity presents itself where you can enter in information for a bio or contact info for if you're deciding to do election stuff, please do that as soon as possible, as your local director of IT and deputy director of IT will be working busily to keep that website updated. Thank you. Photos too.
Before the end of the meeting, after the last closing announcement and we do our cyclone, I'm going to run up to the podium, and if anybody would like to leave, you're welcome to, but I was going to do a video pan of the room for the Iowa State admissions account to end the day. So
Not allowed. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
That's my announcement.
Okay, everyone. When I first came to, that's unfortunate. All right, when I first came to Iowa State, I very briefly considered a journalism major. That didn't happen, but today I would like to break some news to you. If you've been following along, SciRide has been considering the design for the new electric buses that came out. There were 3 designs to be voted on. There was the small plug, the electric plug, the small electron, the electric plug, and the big plug. Earlier today, SciRide voted to choose this after 42% of voters in the straw poll voted for it. So you will next year see these buses rolling around campus. So we're going to have some awesome electric buses, and we're really excited about it. So yeah, that's just me gushing over SciRide as usual. I yield.
All right, any senators have any closing announcements? All right, let's invite Julia up to the podium. Well, let's do this before we adjourn. That'd be kind of fun. We're going to do it before we adjourn. We can do it while she's doing it. We're going to adjourn while you do it, if that's okay. So we can do this.
To my social media team, boomerang or video?
Well, yes, eventually. But
video? Can I do a pan?
Everyone a warning.
Okay. I'm going to start with Senator Rulli and pan the room this way. And then go to tech.
Shoot. Yeah. I forgot. You too. Okay. Quick reminder. quick reminder, we actually can't do that because they have to give their closing announcements, so we're not going to adjourn and do it, but we'll go like this anyway. So, sorry about that, I kind of forgot. Okay.
Here we go.
All right. We're not adjourned yet. 1 second. All right. Announcements from Vice Speaker and Speaker.
All right. Weekly reminder that office hours are a thing. I could have said that less passive-aggressively, but it essentially, do your office hours and write it down on the sheet. If you forget, not a big deal. Just write it down the next time you're in the office, or just email me as a reminder. You do have to do those before 5 p.m. on Fridays. I have another update. So I'm currently working on what we want the mentor-mentee program to look like in this semester. As it stands right now, we really only have 3 senators from last year in this body. That would be Speaker Weathers, yours truly, and Senator Adegarla. And oh, Senator Goff! Oh no! Yes. So while the goal is certainly not to have like 8 mentees to a mentor, there's sort of 2 paths we're looking at here. The first is to let members of the executive or other branches of student government that have served in Senate before and let them take on mentees and use their experience in that manner. Or the other thing we could do is let senators that have been here for 2 terms that were elected back in March, who are probably well-versed in Senate and the way it operates at this point, let them be mentees instead, or some sort of mix of that. Since most of you are newer senators, please reach out to me with your thoughts on this if you have any, what you think will be the best for you and to ease that transition into Senate. And then one quick note, I know tonight we're going to have a lot of feelings about those individually. I know there's a lot of you that are probably going to think what happened was pointless, and I guess what I'm really going to say here is every once in a while we're going to have debates like this in Senate, and it's important to remember that we have to maintain a strict division between professional and personal. Yes, you might have been really fighting tooth and nail against someone in this room, but the moment we step out of the door historically, that's been it. Grab a coffee with someone you were fighting and fighting on the floor. Understand where they're coming from. Yes, you might think their positions are really polar opposites to yours, but there's going to be a lot of people like that in the real world, and that's just how Senate goes. What I'm going to say is let's keep that camaraderie outside of the room going. Let's not let what happens in this room affect the dynamic of the organization as a whole. I yield. Everybody have a good night.
Okay, one last thing. First and foremost, happy birthday, Senator Finaldi. Thanks for showing up on your birthday night. It means a lot to us. I'm sure it means a lot to your constituents, too. Also, first outreach credit of the semester goes to Senator Wagmeister. Congratulations. I'm sure a lot of you have already done some sort of outreach. Just be sure to communicate that to me as the semester continues. And yeah, I'll echo Senator Idbay and me at the end of every Senate meeting for the past year. It was a good debate tonight. I do appreciate it. A good debate isn't really just for us, it's for the students. And I think that kind of feeds into an overall reminder that even if Senate debates can kind of seem slow, sluggish, and trivial at a lot of times, we're setting ourselves up for success and for the work that we do outside of Senate. I don't think any of us would say that we're really changing lives by sitting in this room. What we do is help students by meeting in committees, meeting with each other, tackling projects, things like that. When we bring it to Senate, we're just all agreeing that this is what we want to do. I appreciate working with you all. Appreciate the debate tonight. Yeah, we have to adjourn. Go Cyclones.
Any objection? You can use adjourn.